A loyal woman stood by her husband through poverty and pain, but when success changed him, his cruelty destroyed the very life he worked so hard to build. Before money entered their lives, love was the only thing they had. If you believe real love is tested in hard times, stay with this story until the end. The house was small, almost fragile, standing quietly at the edge of a dusty street. Its walls were thin, the roof leaked when it rained, and the furniture inside had seen better days. Yet every morning, the home woke up with warmth, not from money, but from two hearts trying their best to survive together. She woke before sunrise. Not because she wanted to, but because responsibility never slept. Her body was heavy, tired from years of sacrifice, but her hands moved with care as she prepared a simple meal. There was no luxury, only necessity. Still, she smiled when she heard her husband turn in his sleep. He had been without work for months. Each rejection had chipped away at his confidence, leaving him quieter, heavier with shame. Some days, he barely spoke. Other days, he stared at the floor, lost in thoughts he never shared. Yet she never reminded him of his failures, not once. She believed in him when he could not believe in himself. When he finally woke, she placed the food in front of him as if it were a feast. He looked at her, guilt flickering in his eyes. She only smiled back, the kind of smile that said, "We are still a team. If I stay strong, maybe he will find his strength again." Their conversations were simple. Dreams spoken softly, plans whispered carefully, so they wouldn't break under reality's weight. They laughed at small things. They held hands when the future felt uncertain. In that little house, love did not need money to survive. Sometimes, neighbors judged. They whispered about her body, about her weight, about how she looked older than her years. She heard them. She always did. But she never let those words enter her home. Inside, she was just a wife, loyal, hopeful, devoted. At night, when the lights went out, they lay side by side in silence. The world outside felt harsh, unforgiving. But inside that room, there was still peace. Still trust. Still love. Was love alone enough to survive a lifetime of struggle? She believed it was. She believed that patience would be rewarded, that sacrifice would one day turn into comfort, that the man beside her would rise again. She didn't know what the future held, only that she was willing to face it with him. Because at that time, before pride, before success, before cruel words, their love was pure. Despite poverty, their love feels strong, hopeful, and unbreakable. She carried the family on her back, and never once complained. Where are you watching from? Comment below and let your voice be part of the story. Before the sun had fully risen, she was already outside, stepping into another long day. One job in the morning, another by afternoon, and small tasks in between, whatever paid, whatever helped. Her feet ached, her body felt heavier each year, but she never allowed exhaustion to reach her face when she returned home. At home, she became everything at once. A provider. A caretaker. A protector. She stretched little money into full meals, turning simple ingredients into something warm and filling. She made sure her husband ate first, even when her own portion was small. He often sat quietly, burdened by his thoughts. Failure had wrapped itself around his confidence, whispering that he was not enough. She saw it in his eyes, heard it in his silence. Yet she chose her words carefully, never allowing him to feel small in his own home. When he apologized for not providing, she stopped him gently. She reminded him of who he was, of the dreams he once spoke about with fire in his voice. She spoke about tomorrow as if it was already waiting for him. If I lose faith in him, what will he have left? Neighbors saw her working, sweating, carrying bags heavier than her arms should allow. Some pitied her. Some judged her. Few understood the strength it took to carry a family while protecting a man's pride at the same time. At night, when her body finally rested, her mind stayed awake. She worried about bills, about food, about the future of their children. Yet even in worry, she planned. She imagined a better life, not for herself, but for him, for them. Was it weakness to give so much without asking for anything in return? She believed love was not proven by words, but by quiet sacrifices no one applauded. She believed that standing beside a broken man did not make her weak, it made her loyal. Each day, she chose patience. Each night, she chose hope. And every time doubt tried to enter her heart, she pushed it away with belief. Belief that one day, her sacrifices would help him rise. She did not know how or when that day would come. She only knew she would still be standing when it did. She believes deeply in his future, even when he doubts himself. Success didn't change his life, it changed his heart. The call came on an ordinary afternoon. A job offer. A real one. For the first time in months, hope rushed into the house like fresh air. He smiled again. He stood taller. And she cried, not from relief, but from gratitude that his pain was finally ending. She celebrated quietly, the way she always did. She thanked God. She encouraged him. She reminded him how capable he was, even when the world had doubted him. She believed this moment belonged to him. In the beginning, he was humble. Every paycheck felt like a miracle. He spoke kindly. He thanked her often. He promised her a better life. And she believed every word, because she had been there when no one else was. But as weeks turned into months, something shifted. New clothes replaced the old ones. New friends replaced the quiet evenings at home. His voice grew firmer, his patience thinner. He started speaking more about himself, his work, his achievements, his future. She noticed the change, but she said nothing. She told herself it was temporary. That confidence was a good thing. Maybe this is just him finding himself again. He began to come home late. He checked his phone more than he checked on her. Conversations became shorter. Gratitude slowly faded, replaced by expectation. He no longer thanked her for meals, he simply waited for them. Success had given him power, and power revealed what had been hiding inside. Was this the same man who once depended on her strength to survive? She tried to remind him gently of their journey. Of the nights without food. Of the days she worked until her body ached. He listened, but his eyes no longer softened. Instead, they hardened, as if the past embarrassed him. He started correcting her. Criticizing small things. Questioning her decisions. The warmth between them cooled, replaced by distance she could not explain. She felt it, the shift from partnership to hierarchy. From a we to me. Yet she stayed quiet. Not because she was weak, but because she was hopeful. She believed love could survive success. She believed humility would return. But she didn't realize that while money was entering his hands, pride was entering his heart. And the man who once felt grateful for her sacrifices was slowly beginning to feel entitled to them. Slowly, confidence turns into pride, and gratitude fades into entitlement. The man she built was now destroying her with words. If you've ever felt hurt by someone you loved, stay with this story and share it with someone who needs to hear it. At first, it sounded like a joke. A careless comment about her body. A laugh that stayed in the room a second too long. She smiled politely, pretending not to notice, pretending it didn't matter. After all, it was her husband. The man she had supported when no one else believed in him. But the jokes did not stop. They grew sharper. Louder. More public. In front of friends, He laughed about her weight. In front of family, he compared her to other women. Each word landed softly on the outside, but cut deeply inside her heart. She laughed with them, because silence felt safer than confrontation. Inside, something was breaking. She stopped looking at herself in the mirror. She adjusted her clothes to hide her body. She walked slower, spoke less, smiled only when required. If I say something, will he hate me even more? At home, his words followed her. He complained about her appearance. He questioned why she let herself go, forgetting the years she spent working, caring, sacrificing. He never mentioned how her body had endured long days, sleepless nights, and endless responsibility. Was this the reward for loyalty? She remembered the woman she used to be, confident, hopeful, full of life. Now she measured her worth through his eyes, and those eyes were cold. She began to doubt herself, to feel shame for a body that had given so much. When she cried, she did it quietly. In the bathroom. In the dark. Where no one could see. She wiped her tears before stepping back into the room, wearing a smile that felt heavier than any insult. Friends noticed the change. Her silence. Her forced laughter. But no one heard the war happening inside her heart. The man she once lifted with encouragement was now standing above her, using words as weapons. And each joke stole a piece of her dignity. She still cooked. Still cleaned. Still stood by him in public. Because love, to her, meant endurance. But love was slowly turning into pain. She didn't realize it yet, but emotional wounds bleed just as deeply as physical ones. And the saddest part was this: she was hurting alone. She laughs on the outside but bleeds silently inside. While his wife prayed for peace, temptation sat beside him. She felt it before she saw it. A change in his tone. A secret smile on his phone. A sudden interest in his appearance that never existed before. Something invisible had entered their home, and it brought a cold silence with it. The other woman was everything his pride admired. Slim. Flashy. Loud in her confidence. She laughed at his jokes, praised his success, admired the man he had become, not knowing, or not caring, how he was built. She fed his ego the way his wife once fed his dreams. With her, he felt powerful. Important. Desired. She encouraged his complaints. She agreed when he mocked his wife's body. She made him believe he deserved better, as if loyalty had an expiration date. Slowly, cruelty became easier for him, because someone else was applauding it. At home, his wife noticed the distance growing wider. He came home later. He answered questions with irritation. He guarded his phone like a secret vault. She asked gently, never accusing, never loud. He denied everything. But a woman knows. Not because she is suspicious, but because her heart feels the shift before her eyes can confirm it. If I hold this family together, maybe this storm will pass. She stayed for the children. For the memories. For the hope that the man she married was still somewhere inside him. She prayed silently at night, asking for peace, asking for guidance, asking for strength. Was hope keeping her alive, or keeping her trapped? She tried harder. Spoke softer. Loved deeper. As if sacrificing more could save what was breaking. She blamed herself for his distance, believing the lies she had been taught, that a woman must fix what a man destroys. But every time she looked at him, she saw it. The absence. The emotional betrayal long before the physical one. He no longer listened when she spoke. He compared her without words. His eyes searched for something she could never be, because she was real. Not a fantasy. The other woman didn't carry his struggles. didn't know his failures, didn't build him from nothing. She only enjoyed the version of him that success had shaped, and pride had poisoned. And still, his wife stayed. Not because she didn't feel the pain, but because love, for her, meant endurance. Because she believed marriages deserved fighting for. Because her children deserved a whole home. But some battles are not meant to be fought alone. The wife senses betrayal but clings to hope for her children and marriage. In one moment of pride, he erased everything she sacrificed. If you were in her place, what would you do? Stay silent, or walk away with your dignity? It happened in front of everyone. The words came out of his mouth sharp and unforgiving, louder than they needed to be. He mocked her body again, this time without shame, without mercy. People watched. Some looked away. Others stayed silent. No one stopped him. Her heart froze. She stood there, exposed not just in body, but in soul. The man she once protected now stripped her of dignity with every sentence. He blamed her for his unhappiness, for his success, for everything he no longer wanted to face within himself. She tried to speak. Her voice trembled. But he cut her off. "Leave," he said. As if she was nothing. As if years of sacrifice could be erased with a single command. The children cried. They reached for her. She reached back, but his words were final. The door between them felt heavier than any wall she had ever faced. How did love turn into this? She packed nothing but the clothes she wore. No money. No plan. No time to explain to the children why their mother was being torn from them. She kissed their foreheads through tears she refused to let fall in front of him. Walking out of that house felt like walking out of her own life. Neighbors whispered. Shame followed her steps. But she held her head high. Because even in pain, she refused to beg a man who had already decided to discard her. Was this the price of loving too deeply? Outside, the world felt cold. Empty. Unfamiliar. She had built that home with her body, her patience, her belief. And now she was leaving it behind, not because she failed, but because he did. Every step away from her children felt like her heart was being torn apart. But she kept walking. Not because she was strong, but because staying would have destroyed what little self-worth she had left. She didn't scream. She didn't curse him. She didn't fight back. Sometimes, dignity is the quietest form of strength. She leaves broken, separated from her children, with nothing but pain and dignity. Life waited patiently, then took everything at once. At first, his new life felt exciting. The house was quieter. No questions. No responsibilities he didn't choose. The woman beside him laughed easily, dressed beautifully, and praised him without knowing his past. He believed he had finally found happiness. But peace does not grow where loyalty is buried. Slowly, the silence began to feel heavy. The laughter felt shallow. The woman who once admired him started asking for more money, more time, more attention. She questioned him the way he once questioned his wife. She criticized him the way he once criticized her. Respect faded. Warmth disappeared. He noticed changes he chose to ignore. Secret phone calls. Sudden arguments. Cold distance in moments that should have felt close. The same betrayal he caused now sat across from him. Is this what I destroyed my family for? The home no longer felt like home. It felt temporary. Empty. Loud with conflict. He began to miss the quiet strength of the woman he mocked, the one who built him when he had nothing. Then life struck without warning. An accident. Sudden. Violent. One moment of chaos that changed everything. His body was injured, leaving him weak, dependent, and afraid. The confidence he once wore like armor shattered instantly. In the hospital room, surrounded by cold walls, the truth became impossible to escape. The woman he chose visited once, maybe twice. Then she disappeared. No loyalty. No patience. No sacrifice. Was this the love he believed was better? Bills piled up. Friends stopped calling. Respect vanished the moment his success paused. The world that once applauded him turned its back the same way he had turned his back on his wife. Alone in his pain, he replayed the past. The insults. The laughter at her expense. The night he threw her out like she meant nothing. Regret arrived late, but heavy. He realized then that karma does not shout. It waits. It watches. And when it moves, it takes. Everything at once. A sudden tragedy strikes, leaving him physically and emotionally broken. She didn't rise with revenge, she rose with dignity. The days after she left were heavy. Each morning felt unfamiliar, each night felt longer than the last. She had no comfort, no certainty, only the quiet echo of everything she had lost. But within that silence, something new began to form. Strength. She started with small steps. A place to sleep. Honest work. Simple routines that gave her days meaning again. There was no one to praise her efforts, no one to notice how hard she tried, and for the first time, she learned to stand without waiting for approval. Her body, once mocked, became a symbol of survival. It had carried pain, sacrifice, and love, and it was still standing. She stopped hiding from mirrors. She stopped apologizing for existing. I am more than the words he used against me. Slowly, confidence returned. Not loud. Not arrogant. Just steady. She learned new skills. She met people who respected her silence and valued her presence. She began to smile again, not out of habit, but from healing. Was this what freedom felt like? She chose not to carry hatred. Not because he deserved forgiveness, but because she deserved peace. Bitterness would have tied her to the past, and she was ready to move forward. She thought of her children often. Their laughter. Their faces. She worked harder, not to prove anything to him, but to become a woman they could one day be proud of. A woman who survived without losing her humanity. Pain changed her, but it did not harden her. She learned that love should never demand silence. That sacrifice should never invite cruelty. And that a woman's worth is not measured by a man's satisfaction. Each step forward reminded her of a truth she once forgot: she was always enough. She becomes emotionally stronger, not bitter, learning that her value never depended on his approval. He lost her, and finally found the truth. The room was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps in the morning. No warm meals waiting on the table. No gentle voice asking if he was okay. Just silence, the kind that forces a man to listen to his own thoughts. He sat alone, his body still weak, his pride completely shattered. The success he once showed off was gone. The people who once praised him had disappeared. And for the first time, there was no one left to blame but himself. Memories returned without mercy. Her tired hands serving him food. Her quiet encouragement when he doubted himself. Her smile, even when his words cut deep. He remembered the jokes. The insults. The laughter that came at her expense. How did I become the man I once hated? He realized something painful: he didn't destroy his marriage in one day. He destroyed it slowly. With every cruel comment. Every public humiliation. Every moment he chose pride over kindness. Was mocking her body ever about her, or was it about his own insecurity? He finally understood what he had lost. Not just a wife, but a woman who loved him when he had nothing. A woman who believed in him when the world turned away. A woman who never asked for perfection, only respect. Regret filled the space she once occupied. Heavy. Unforgiving. He reached out, but too late. The damage had already been done. Some wounds do not heal with apologies. Some doors do not reopen once dignity has walked out. He looked at himself now, broken, humbled, stripped of everything he thought made him important. And in that moment, the truth became clear. The first insult was the first crack. The first joke was the first fall. The moment he mocked her body, he began destroying his own life. He finally understands that mocking her body was the first step in destroying his own life. Forgiveness healed her, but wisdom changed her forever. The air was calm, carrying the quiet strength of someone who had endured too much to be shaken again. She stood at the edge of her new life, her children by her side, her heart heavy with memories but lightened by choice. She had suffered, yes, but she had also grown. He approached her, broken and humbled, words trembling on his lips. I am sorry, he whispered, the weight of his failures pressing down on him. But she looked at him with clear eyes, steady and calm. She had forgiven, not for him, but for herself. Forgiving him doesn't mean returning, it means releasing the chains of the past. Why had she waited so long to forgive? Not for him, she realized, but for the peace she deserved. Every sleepless night, every tear, every humiliation, she carried it all, and yet she chose release over revenge. Her forgiveness was a shield, not an invitation. I will never let someone's pride define my worth again. She saw the pain in his eyes, the same pain he had caused her. And yet, she did not feel triumph. She only felt clarity. Clarity that love must never be laced with cruelty, and respect is the foundation upon which hearts are built. He lowered his gaze, understanding too late the life he had destroyed. And she walked forward, shoulders straight, heart strong, leaving behind the man who once mocked her. The world around her seemed brighter, not because it had changed, but because she had. The children laughed nearby, innocent of the adult mistakes that had nearly torn their family apart. She smiled, letting them remind her of what truly mattered: hope, love, and the future she could shape with her own hands. Could she ever trust again? Perhaps. But she knew now that trust was earned, not demanded, respect was given freely, not taken for granted. And above all, love must never be punished with words meant to wound. In this quiet moment, she understood a simple truth. Forgiveness does not restore the past, but it frees the future. And some lessons, the hardest lessons, carry a cost too great to ignore. The story ends with a powerful moral about pride, love, and the cost of disrespect.